Hello, everyone out there. Welcome back to hang out with us, your favorite press play again people. You know why? Because I think we're the only people. I don't know if there's more press play again people out there, but anyway, regardless. Happy friggin' Memorial Day. I don't know. We're all off work. We're all enjoying ourselves. So,
Bailey, you need to be quiet.
What? Wait, why?
Because the monsters. The monster.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm sitting here like, what the hell are you talking about? Matt just so clearly pointed out what we're about to talk about with you guys, and that's A Quiet Place Part 2. That just threw me off so much.
If the title didn't give it away.
What am I going to do?
That's right. Yeah. Or the logo right there.
Oh, right. Because we have that on screen. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do this. Anyway, it's Press Play again, and I'm Bailey, your host. And joining me, as always, are the beautiful Omar Zaki and Matthew Austin.
I'm terrified.
Howdy.
I'm terrified to be here.
Oh my God. I literally was just like, why do I have to be quiet? Is something wrong? Honestly, that was ridiculous that I couldn't catch on to that. Yeah, we're here. We just watched, not like literally just watched, but we just recently saw A Quiet Place Part 2, where we were big fans of the first one. So this was very exciting. Me not really being a horror movie person. Thriller movies are okay though, but like horror, not my thing. Matthew, not really his thing either. Omar, he is just a bundle of scares. So, am I right or am I right? He's just like, I'm so done with it.
When I see Omar, I think just a giant bundle of scares. Thought that since high school, man.
Oh, are you doing sign language? Oh, look at him.
Please stop talking.
Playing the freaking part. All right, well, we're here to discuss this movie. And before I get into spoiling how I feel about it, because I do that every time I start the intro, I immediately say how I felt about the movie before I even get to that part. So I'm just going to not say anything and go into, if you want to follow us on any social medias, you can on Twitter, and not any. It's only Twitter and Instagram. But you can on Twitter at Again Press and Instagram at Press Play Again. We post fun things. We post fun polls. We post fun shit in general. So go follow us on that and talk to us because we love talking to people. And then also you can listen to us on other things besides YouTube, even though you should listen to us on YouTube and comment on things and tell us what you think or if our opinions are dumb. And also subscribe to us. But listen to us on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Apple Podcasts. And leave us 5 stars because just fucking leave us 5 stars, okay? And we're going to be posting our Bad Batch episodes because we're still doing the whole like watch through of those things on Mondays usually. But because it's Memorial Day, we're going to be posting on Tuesday. You'll see that on Tuesday when you inevitably watch or listen to this. So that's self-explanatory. And then we will be posting new movies whenever they come out. We try to post them as quick as possible. That's all I got for you. We're going to post them as soon as we can after we watch the movies, which is what we're doing for this, A Quiet Place Part 2. Anyway, I'm done. I'm done with all of that shit. Moving on, Matthew, initial impression of this movie.
Initial impressions of A Quiet Place Part 2. All right. I loved it. I thought it was great. I think it's, I think it's probably as good as the first one. Like, I really do. I don't know if I liked it more, but I don't think I liked it less. And I really liked the first one. So much so that I kind of had forgotten about how good the first one really is. I rewatched it. Let's see. We saw this movie on Thursday, right? So I think I rewatched part 1 on Tuesday. I tried to start it Monday night. I had all my food ready, just sitting there like, all right, I'm going to watch this movie. And 5 minutes in, I was like, no, I'm not watching anything scary before bed. Powered that bad boy right off and watched more of The Expanse. Great show. And woke up early ass Tuesday morning, watched with the sunlight. It was great. But yeah, anyway, back to Quiet Place Part 2. I thought it was great. I think it's, I found it a little bit scarier than the first one, but still not really that scary. I think it's smartly scary though. Like I think the jump scares and stuff are well timed to the point where they do kind of get like a little tense rise out of you. You know what I mean? I wasn't like freaking out or anything, but I felt the chills. I felt the goosebumps. They would pop up every now and then. No screams, but yeah. And I thought the story was actually probably felt like what would logically happen next. A lot of surprises when the child, can't remember his name, but steps in that bear trap. Didn't like that. Didn't see that coming. But I was like, let's give everybody something to deal with in this movie, and that certainly was challenging, as we'll get into. But yeah, I really liked it, and I think John Krasinski is got something here. Like, I don't know if I necessarily would want a part 3 or anything, but I think he is shown now twice that he can really make a good, like, tight horror movie, and I'm down for whatever this man does next.
Me too. Which is giving away how I feel about this, but whatever. I'm going to ask Omar first. Omar, what did you think of it?
Okay. So I know throughout this episode, we're going to do what we do, like, when we talk about any sequel and kind of compare it a bit to the first part. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't see this as a sequel. To me, this is just the second half that comes right after the first part of the movie. It felt like one movie to me. In no means, like I said, do I see this as a sequel. I enjoyed it just as much. I think it continues the story perfectly. Literally where it stopped, it picks up. I mean, obviously, when we actually talk in detail, there's going to be things that I'm going to say that I really liked, and then other things that, not that I didn't like, but yeah, I'll just
that you hated.
We'll talk. No, not that. No, but compared to the first part, obviously, like, I'm a huge John Krasinski fan. He's one of my favorite actors, and I understand he's not the greatest by any means.
Yes, he
but
is.
obviously,
Yes,
I mean, that's very arguable.
Well, we know. Now Omar says he likes John Krasinski. I guess I love you then, John, because I think you are the greatest.
I mean, dude, he's like in my top 5 greatest actors of all time for me. But I know by no means is he like a great actor. But anyways, what I was gonna say is, like, my least favorite part about this movie is that he wasn't in it. Even though he was in for, one scene or whatever. But yeah, I'm actually gonna bring fun facts back in this episode because there's a couple things I want to share with you guys that I don't think many people know. On Twitter, they do this thing now.
Fun facts.
I've
missed them.
This is my favorite segment from early Press Play Again.
They do this thing on Twitter now where it's weird. It's like a Zoom call. We can join in. We're just not allowed to talk. We've got a request to talk, but they do a Zoom call. Like when J. Cole dropped his album, they had this thing on Twitter where they link up with them, and anyone can join in on the call and hear, like, they interview him, whatever. So they did the same thing with John Krasinski on Friday, and I actually was listening in, like, while I was at work, and shared some pretty cool details I'll bring up later. But yeah, okay. So no, I mean, I loved it, absolutely loved it. Like you guys said, I think he's got something going here. I would absolutely love a part 3. Because, like I said, this just feels like one big story, and I do want to see the conclusion. I feel like the movie ended abruptly, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't say that, but I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and that's why it makes me think there's going to be a part 3.
Yeah, I don't even think the ending's weak necessarily. I would just say it caught me off guard. I just was I was surprised it ended there.
It's like the first part. The first part ended abruptly. Second part ended abruptly. It's not weak by any means, but that's really the only reason. Like, I think if there was another 5 minutes and they kind of wrapped it up, I'd be like, dude, 2 good movies, we're done. But because of how it ended, I think we're getting a part 3. But yeah, how about you, host?
I agree with y'all on some things, but I honestly personally thought this one was better than the first one, but not in a way that I'm like the first one was bad, because I think the first one was great. I just think it's one of those things where, like, you finally get a continuation of a story in a movie and, like, a technical sequel, I guess, but it's really good and could be even better, because that's such a hard thing to do. I feel like, especially for thriller/horror movies. So that impressed me in itself. I love Cillian Murphy, or Cillian. I'm not sure exactly how you say it. Sorry for that, but I adore him so much. I think he's great. I want him in everything. He's the beautiful piercing eyes. I'm like, just put him in everything. But I thought it was such a tight story that told more than what we got in the first one. And I like that, because it's like now we get even more of a feel of this universe that they've created. And I thought they did it really, really well. And the jump scares, every single one got me. And you know it's going to happen. But John does this thing so well in his movies where you know you're about to have the jump scare. You can feel it. It's there. It's perfectly set up. But he waits a second too long for it to happen. Does. So you almost think you're safe.
Yeah.
And then it happens. And then you're just like... I don't actually do that.
No, she does. I was next to her. I can confirm, like, she does that every time.
It gets me every fucking time, and I loved that because I don't watch movies like this often. So when I do, and they're enjoyable jump scares, I'm happy with that. But there was parts in this I thought were creepier for sure. There's certain things which we'll talk about that they didn't really touch on ever again, and I was like, that was a weird choice, but whatever, that's fine.
Saving it for part 3, baby.
But that's the thing, like, if there's a part 3, cool. If there's not, I don't mind it. Like, I actually am the opposite of y'all. I liked the quick cut to the end. Like, I liked the abrupt, like, they saved the end. Spoilers, whatever. You're listening to this, so you should have already watched the movie. But they do what they do at the end, and then it cuts, and I'm like, cool. Now you get to use your imagination to figure out how you think this story like ends. And sometimes I like that, sometimes I don't, but I liked it for this. So that's where I'm at with this. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great.
Three likes.
Great. 3 loves.
3 loves.
3 loves.
That's true.
Oh, we're falling in love, guys. Anyway, so
with John.
Now we discuss the movie. And I'm gonna start out by saying, God bless Jonathan Krasinski. Don't know if his name's Jonathan, but Jonathan Krasinski.
I don't think it is.
I don't know if it is.
It's not? Great.
Well,
there was the part in the movie in the beginning where like these girls were like sitting next to us in the theater and they were talking really loudly and the movie had like already started and it's called A Fucking Quiet Place.
Yeah.
So everyone can hear you talking. So I do the thing where I'm like, I look over because I'm like, okay, like let's calm down, ladies. Like, I'm glad y'all are having a great time, but calm down. And I missed John Krasinski's entrance because everyone goes, and I was like, I missed something. And I had no clue it was John Krasinski until I see him strolling into the like grocery store getting an apple. And I'm like, shit, I missed it.
Dude, I love that.
He made that apple look delicious. Delicious.
He really did.
I just wanted to go just eat an apple after. Also, I think his name's just John. John Burke Krasinski.
Yeah, it's John.
Whatever.
So yeah, it's not Jonathan. It's not John Word. It's none of this nonsense.
The first 20 minutes makes you like really appreciate part 1 a lot more. Just even with his character and his relationship with like the entire family, with the daughter. Like you can see she favors him over the mother, and the mother already kind of seems like the more sensitive OCD type. Right, because even like when they were at the game, she keeps telling him just breathe, just come down, and then you see fucking John walking in all cocky with his oranges and apples, with the knife on the bleachers, like, oh, well, what's the score? You know, he's like carefree, cool dad, and she's like the OCD, whatever.
I wouldn't even say it's OCD. I'd more say she's the one who just like she has to have her head on straight because he's more of the creative all over the place.
Yeah.
So, like you have to have one to balance out the other.
I also just see it as she's just so motherly, right? Like she was there and like she knows her kid's nervous, so she's the one that is like, I'm gonna help you calm down. Whereas dad knows you got this.
I think it's such a clever thing too that this movie plays with, that because their whole family has to know sign language because of their sister. Yeah. It's like they use it to communicate. That's been like the main thing with these movies. They use it to communicate in such a cool way, and I'm like, I don't know why that really impresses me. Probably because I don't know sign language, unfortunately. But like, I just find that such a cool way to show communication, not just in like a world where you have to be quiet, but like in all real world aspects.
It also was cool. It also just helps to kind of add believability to their whole situation, right? Because now when you think about it, it was obviously like you could have known this before, but it's much more in your face that like, okay, they had at least some sort of an advantage because their family kind of already knew sign language. And most people are just like suddenly thrust into a world where you can't talk. Yeah, I don't think you're going to learn sign language or pick up on it that quickly.
That's the thing. Actually, that was one of the problems. Not the problem that I had with part 1, but that was always something I wondered. I was like, okay, so obviously this happens out of nowhere. They had no idea it was about to happen, right? And all of a sudden they have to be quiet. When did they learn sign language? Like, who taught them, or how'd they do it without being able to talk? You know. But now we know they obviously knew how to do it prior. Because I always wondered. It's like you can't teach sign language unless like there's communication. You're actually like practicing just every day, every night, whatever. Right. So I'm glad they actually explained.
Well, yeah, because like you kind of are supposed to just assume they know it because of the daughter, but like the kids are so young that you don't know for sure. Play with it as much,
right?
But now is it like how seeing it used in like just at a baseball game, like the mom to just be able to say something to her son from so far away? It's just a cool concept.
Yeah.
But the whole way they played out the scene with the baseball in general, like seeing just things falling from the sky and everybody just kind of realizing something's happening all at once, and it's just dead quiet.
I'm a sucker for like just doomsday stuff like this.
Yeah,
like just the beginning of the end.
It came out of
you know what I
nowhere,
mean?
man.
It's always just like, oh shit, things are going crazy, and I don't know. I love that in disaster movies, like even bad ones. It's like the beginning's always good. I don't know what happens after, but the beginning's always good.
Yeah, it's like they made it so fucking intense. Even when and I keep forgetting the guy his actual name in the movie. John's name.
Lee.
Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. Even like when he's walking up to the cop, asking him like, what's up there, what's going on, and all of a sudden the fucking creature comes, and dude, without thinking or without looking in horror, he turns around and starts just gunning it.
Yep.
I love that type of shit.
Great acting, man.
He
Great
and
acting.
Emily sold like being the scared parent, but having to stay composed because you're worried about your kids
So
getting to
well.
safety. So well. Like I
Yeah.
was like,
Isn't
oh
it-
my god.
Isn't it crazy that they didn't even like initially they didn't even want to come back? Like it blows my mind that initially they were like on the fence about it, and then here we are, a great part too.
They really just did wonderful casting these movies. I feel like you had to make sure you had the right kids playing it too.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
That's
I
half
think
the
they
reason
did
why
so
these
well.
movies are so good. Is both of
Right.
the two lead kids in this.
I mean, they carried.
Yeah, they're great child actors, and that's a very easy way to make this feel less believable, right? Is
Dude.
if they weren't as good. But
It just made me think of remember the scene when they're all like they get attacked and everybody's hiding and they go into that bar or that restaurant.
Yeah, in a diner
like,
or whatever. Yeah.
And like the guy is like praying and like Lee has to crawl over and just
Yeah,
kind of like
put his
cover
hand.
his mouth. He's just like,
I love that.
and I'm like, yeah, everyone just like stay quiet. My God. And then the girl's phone rings and he just like takes off running. Oh,
He knew.
all of that was done so great.
I
I
also-
loved it.
I love during this whole sequence too how they play with sound, which obviously they do that so well in this whole movie and the last movie. But yeah, having the parts that are clearly from what's her name, Reagan. Yeah, her point of view where you can't hear anything, and it is everything that she's experiencing.
the
You're
cuts,
seeing, and most
yeah.
of it's just in John's face, right? Like just the way you see. Like she wouldn't know what's going on, but looking at her parent and seeing like horror, she knows crazy stuff's happening. And I thought all that was so well done.
Yeah,
I
agree.
And then we finally, so what happens? I'm trying to think. We go through that whole like beginning. Oh, it cuts. I was like, how do we cut to real present time? And it's because it like cuts to Emily cocking the gun again.
Mm-hmm.
Like from the end of the movie. And we were talking about that like before the movie. We were like, oh, I wonder if it's just going to start with her like cocking the gun. But it didn't. But it also kind of did.
Yeah, it basically, it like gets you right back in that moment. You just don't see, them actually kill I think there were 2 or 3 at the end of the first one that were coming for him. You assume they
2, I think,
Oh,
because there was
yeah.
originally 3 and she killed one, I guess, and then 2 more were coming.
Yeah. And I loved how we get them like kind of trying to figure out what they're supposed to do next, like seeing the house all flooded and stuff, and everything with the baby just absolutely terrifying to think about because
they had a
how
plan,
the hell do you
dude.
how the hell do you have an infant in a world like that? It just,
Right.
I mean, you being a father, Omar, can you imagine?
Oh, dude, I was sweating the whole time. And I could like Jade was making faces and gasping and this and that. Yeah. I was
yeah,
sweating.
it's tough to watch, but you see like their whole system they have with like her earpiece and the like box they're holding, or the what is that called, a speaker, and then
amplifier
they like,
or whatever.
yeah, it's like so cool the whole system they have. But then so like they're going through everything finally to, I guess like the daughter sees what John was looking for. I keep calling him John. Lee was looking for, and she saw that he'd noticed there's someone else out there. And so that's like where they go. But I wanted to point out, because we had talked about this, the part where y'all were saying, yeah, John just like wrote like all this stuff all over his walls, like in exclamation points and stuff, and how unrealistic that was. And I didn't notice it until this time because y'all had said something, but it had like all of that stuff like very dramatically written out.
Wait, you didn't notice it like in the first movie?
No, I didn't notice it until y'all said something.
You just didn't notice how kind of like unrealistic it is, you mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Because then I see like 2 exclamation points behind something. I'm like, why?
That's what's the only thing weird about it is like what Bailey's saying, the exclamation points, and then certain things that he circles or writes a box around, like what is the weakness? That just seems like something that he wouldn't. You're just writing these notes for yourself.
The dramatic
but
part of it.
It's whatever.
It's
you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter.
I just found it funny seeing it.
Yeah.
It's like the red string theory thing. We're like, yeah,
literally,
whatever.
yeah.
But he so like they go and they try and find this other person, and they're walking through everything, and of course we come to what y'all were talking about, which is like the bear trap stuff.
I'm just gonna say, dude, at that point, if I was Emily Blunt, the mother in this situation, and I like to think one day I will be a great parent, but
you'd shoot the kid.
No, I would not shoot the
I was
kid.
not expecting Omar to say that.
I would. I don't think I'd think fast enough, and I would just realize, like, look, dude, we are fucked. It is over. Because in that moment, imagine you've got a newborn baby that you have to keep putting in a fucking box with a breathing machine on it. You know, you have a daughter who is handling herself extremely well, but she can't hear. And now your son's got his foot, I thought was going to be gone after this. I'm very glad that they found a way to save it. But I would have just been like, we have no shot of surviving kids. Also, I'm sorry.
The kid who plays the brother, I can't remember his name. He's
the
like,
actor?
Yeah. He's
Noah
in a
Jupe.
Bunch of stuff. Noah Jupe. His screams were the most realistic screams I have ever heard in a movie.
That kid has a bright future, man.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Clearly.
He's in so many things. Have you guys noticed? He's like in a lot of things recently.
Oh yeah, he's killing. He's killing
in
the
Ford v
young
Ferrari.
Hollywood.
He was in Wonder. Was a great
movie.
Honey Boy.
Wonder. Dude, I thought he died in Wonder, man. Like at the end, when he hits his head.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, he was killing it though. But I loved how they show, because I just like wasn't sure. You saw Cillian Murphy in all the commercials or ads for it, and I was like, I'm curious how they're going to introduce this new character. And it's so interesting that he ended up being what seems like a best friend of the family. And he's like been there this whole time and knew that the other people that were lighting the fire were them, but wasn't going to come and like try and be with them or save them or work together kind of thing. It was such an interesting... I wasn't expecting that.
His character
he's extremely interesting, and I thought his character was super well written because, he has a lot of kind of problems or just... Yeah, he's not the hero by any means of anything that happened before this or even this movie. I mean, he finally makes some good decisions here and helps out this family, but, he's gone through a lot, obviously, but they really do show how, like, he saw the fire. He probably had a lot of chances where he could help, but he's gone through his own shit and chose that he couldn't.
Yeah, gone through his own shit. They literally show him keeping his wife's corpse, and I'm like, that's the thing I was talking about. Like, why did they introduce that and just... to like make it seem like Cillian's just crazy, but then like he wasn't. He was just fine.
Yeah.
Nothing ever came about that.
I didn't even really realize until thinking about it later. I think in the moment, for some reason, I just didn't realize that was his wife. I was just like, hey, he's just got some body up here. But
just some random body.
Yeah, and I don't know why. We're in some post-apocalyptic world. Anything could happen. But yeah, that obviously is a little strange and is kind of weird as his character was. It didn't seem like he'd be the kind of person that would do that. So I see what you're talking about.
I saw it as they're trying to take as a realistic take on it as they can, because like imagine if he has to actually, dude, like with the shovel, the ground, breaking it, sounds all over the place. I mean, I figured, and then him carrying her, dropping her or something, and then they're both dead. Well, she was already dead, but yeah, I mean, no, I don't know. I just took it as like he's trying to avoid as much noise. He's obviously scared of everything and anything. He's lost like his son. It was just one son, right? Yeah, his son, now his wife. So I just took it as...
No, I think I get it. I just think it was a weird choice.
To even show it, yeah.
Right, it's one of those things where you could just write it off as...
Like, they already kept showing him having
what he do with her body?
His son everywhere. So it's just like...
That's true.
It was one of those things where I think it was just to add more horror aspects to it. Which is understandable. It was weird.
Y'all want to know something interesting? I'm going to throw the fun fact in real quick.
Yeah,
so what I heard, right? Okay. So John wrote the story for part 1 while he was filming Jack Ryan season 1. Okay. And then he wrote the story for part 2 while he was filming season 2 for Jack Ryan.
Jesus, does that show bring something out of him?
Well, no, here's what happened though. So apparently he takes like the weirdest approach. He doesn't actually start writing any part of the story until he has the entire story in his head. He doesn't take any notes. He doesn't contact anyone. Nothing. So in his mind, if the idea isn't that great and he forgets it, then it's not even worth making it into a movie. So he literally had the entire plot, scene for scene. And then once he's actually ready to write, obviously, like he's gonna use certain characters, use certain lines, whatever. But until then, so that's why like I find it interesting. Like once I heard that, I was trying to pay attention to the movie and just see like nothing really is in there randomly. I don't think. But you did make a point. You said something about there was a few unanswered things. So I'm very curious to see what you bring up or what you say.
So one of
Yeah,
them already, she
I
said, is the kind of the corpse of his wife.
Yeah, and the other thing I think was something that I can bring up later when
When
we
we get to
Okay.
it.
keep venturing to it because we're getting close. We're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
there.
Okay.
Um,
okay.
I do want to say though, speaking
that's
of
one thing-
Cillian
yeah.
Murphy lifting people, shout out because he carried that kid.
Oh, he
Oh,
freaking
yeah,
booked
booked
it, dude.
it.
He was
Yeah.
like, "We are getting in this fucking airtight vault. It's the last thing we do."
What a cool like little bunker area.
I hated that
too.
fucking vault, dude. I
Oh,
was
the
losing my
vault?
breath every time they went next to it. I was like, dude, that tower's gonna slip. It's gonna close,
Oh,
and
man. I couldn't have
it.
done it, dude. I would have said,
Foreshadowing.
"Just let me die. Let this
That's it.
thing get me. Y'all go in there and take your chances
Dude.
with
Yeah,
the air."
suffocating is like
Hated
worse
it.
I feel than
Absolutely
being
hated
ripped
it.
apart.
Yeah, I'd
but
rather
I'm
be ripped
actually-
apart.
oh fuck yeah,
Yeah.
dude, rip me to shreds, baby.
rip
Fuck
him
that
to
ball.
fucking shreds.
Whew.
How do y'all feel about the whole Cillian's like there are people out there that are awful or whatever y'all don't know. Like what do y'all think about his whole excuse of
Felt like a
not
cop-out to
letting
me.
them stay there? Like how he
Well,
was like
no,
y'all
he
have
was
to leave.
he was right though, right? Because we end up running into those people at the end, and they looked fucking atrocious.
For sure,
Yeah, but I more mean about him making them leave.
Oh,
Like-
I mean that. I mean,
Well, So
yeah.
I see it as him making them leave was because he didn't have resources and stuff, right? Didn't he kind of say that? He's like, "There's just
Yeah.
not enough
Yeah,
food
but,
and
like,
water for y'all." But
they found resources, so clearly they can continue to find resources.
right, I think he's at his wits' end with all the loss he's had, where he's like, "Look," but along the lines of what you're saying, though, Bailey, I think because he used the excuse about there being horrible people out there when she was asking him about the fire and how he would never come, and to me, I think that is more of a like felt kind of like a cop out or a weird thing because it's established that they're friends before this.
It's
And
only
so-
a cop out until we get to a part.
Right. But to me, it's like the resources thing makes way more sense. Like, even if to
Yeah.
that, he was just like, "Look, I never had enough shit to help you guys." But the whole, like, I've seen what it turns people into. I get that, good men in this world could be turned terrible with something like this happening. But I think because they were friends, it's just more likely you'd think he'd assume that, all right, if they're alive, they're probably not going to be cannibals yet.
Yeah.
So that part was a little bit weird to me, but the running out of supplies and shit made way more sense.
Another question. How do y'all feel about the daughter, Morgan? No. Reagan. God, I was like, who is this? Reagan. How do y'all feel about the whole she figures this out and ventures out on her own in this being someone who is deaf in a post-apocalyptic world that you cannot make sound in?
I loved it, man, because I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. As much as I love this movie, obviously, John Krasinski wasn't in it, so I didn't enjoy it as much as the first part. Because I love him, obviously, but I'll say this: in his son and daughter, like when she was doing shit like that, you see his character in there.
Yeah,
it's so hard not to. And I think, I
He did
absolutely
really well with
loved it.
that.
Yeah, and the kids. It only made sense, right? It only made sense that it would be either his kids or his daughter his kids or his wife to actually venture out and do that, because that was kind of his role. He was the protector. And I think with the daughter too, we saw glimpses of that in the first movie. Like initially when he was trying to take the son with him to the little river thing or whatever, she's like I'll do it. She was like opted in to do it. So I think I think it made sense, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm same
ahead.
boat. Yeah, I think it didn't make as much sense, or it made sense, but I think it's nailed home by the end. When you really do see like everything that's happening with these two kids being able to step up and kill these creatures, as well as spoilers for the end, but the signal being broadcast, right? This is all because of Lee. So
Right.
it makes sense to me that his daughter, who like we know she's deaf, but she's extremely intelligent. Like it's like she has figured so much out in this world and has handled herself extremely well. It's like, to me, it does make sense that she would piece that together, where like my dad was always listening to the radio looking for something. Now all of a sudden there's a song on, it's playing on loop. So there's got to be something more to it than that. So
Beyond
I kind
the
of
Sea, man.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cute little add-in.
very
It
cute.
was adorable. I liked
It's
it. I
so
was like, oh,
cute.
this is such a little clever John thing to do. But yeah,
Jonathan.
all of that with him or her leaving, and then Emily slash Evelyn, I think that's her name, but
Yeah.
going up to Cillian and
Nailed
being
it.
like, go get her. Like, you have to go get her.
Dude,
She
yeah.
was like not giving him a choice. And I was like, that is some like straight up mom shit. Like, you
Mhm.
know, she's like, no, you literally have no choice. You're going to get my child. Like, I thought that whole scene between them, however short it was like perfect. And then he like actually does go save her. And that part in the freaking train where you know something tense is about to happen and she opens the door and just that stupid body falls is the scariest shit to me in the entire movie. It got me so bad. I literally thought I was gonna pee myself because I like don't know why it got me so bad, but it did. And then I think it was like the anxiety of her reaching for the first aid kit. I was like, okay, this is just lasting so long.
I was
My
like, do you
God,
need
just
this?
do something. It was ridiculous.
I was
But
like, are you sure you need this?
I thought it was sweet because first of all, it reminded me so much of a video game because you're like, oh, you do anything to get to health. You're like, I just need to find the health. But I also think she was getting it for her brother, which
Yeah.
was super sweet. I really enjoyed that because I love their dynamic too. But him showing up and like kind of seeing what we see, which is seeing John's character through his daughter, and then him like her waking up and freaking out. That whole scene where she freaks out, where she loses her earpiece, and you see her just like completely crumble, like she just loses all hope, and then he just like pops up and he's like, "Here, like I was just using it," kind of thing, and saying he found a boat. That all was really beautifully done too. Like seeing that father-daughter dynamic, even though they're not father and daughter, which I mean, we can't not bring it up, but like this movie reeks of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
100%, which I think is awesome.
Oh yeah, I was waiting to say it, but like I didn't realize it with the first one. Rewatching it, I kind of started to. I was like, man, I guess I just wasn't thinking of The Last of Us when we saw the first one. But yeah, being that part 2 came out so recently too, I'm like, this is John Krasinski a Last of Us fan? Because there's so many similarities here. Just from, I mean, there's the obvious ones, but I feel like just the description of the world and just the way things look. Is just it's so reminiscent of it in the best way, you know, not ripping it off, just kind of being somewhat inspired by it or just telling a story that's kind of similar to it.
Yeah. How did y'all feel about the cult people that we ran into?
Scared the shit out of me.
Freaking terrifying girl.
I mean, it's literally what you guys just said too. Literally.
And
you know, I hate to force crossover here, but yeah, Last of Us Part 2. We had the same type of people.
Yes,
and
literally.
I mean, as soon as I saw him, I was like, dude, holy shit, this is The Last of Us. And yeah, they creeped me the fuck out, and I didn't know what the hell was gonna happen. And I love how every single thing played out.
It was great.
In that scene, dude. It was just so like well played out, like well actioned, if that makes it if that makes any sense. Like how they got the monsters in there, and just all the cues, and like when he goes like, you know this.
I was waiting for it the whole time. I'm like, if this is all the sign language he knows, this is going to be a moment.
It's like at
some
that
point
moment, that's when those two characters just click for me, man. And everything after that is like pure fucking gold. And when he saves her her earpiece and in his mouth, dude,
that was
great shit.
You fall in love with him, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
it's hard not to, man.
What a man.
Yeah, I love that because this movie's PG-13, right? I'm almost positive it is.
Is it?
Yeah, somebody double check me or
Really
I'll look at it.
Radar.
Maybe it is, and if so, then this point means nothing.
I feel like there's not enough blood for it to be R.
Yeah, but
for some reason.
Well, part 1 is PG-13. So.
Yeah, I'm
look
really,
at him.
I really think this one is too, and I think that the movie's obviously scary, but I think having these guys come in, and obviously they don't end up accomplishing anything. Like our fucking heroes get the best of them, thank God. But I think just seeing this kind of more terrifying thing that exists in the world again helps it be a little more believable. Where it's like these people are bad. They were trying to take her, and thank God they found a way out of that. But I just love stuff like that adds suspense, and you just know these guys suck.
I mean, wait, what were you gonna say?
You go first.
No, I was just gonna say, like if we're being honest, even though you and I said we enjoyed part 1 more, I mean everything they did well in part 1, they definitely improved in here. In terms of it being intense, in terms of the jump scares, all that. In terms of horror, they definitely improved on all those aspects in part 2. And I think so. part 2 is what people wanted part 1 to be when they went in thinking, okay, this is a horror movie, a thriller movie. Whereas it ended up being more of a drama set in a horror universe or whatever.
For sure. Also, part
So-
one is so much like there's a large chunk of that movie that, and obviously there's a lot of it in this one too, but it's like a silent movie completely. There's very little dialogue in the first one, and I think it makes the first one feel more like a
Play.
yeah, well, I was gonna say like an art piece or like a play or anything like that. Just where like this is such a unique thing, whereas this is the continuation of that. It has to be more of a movie because there's more. The plot has a little bit more to it, even though it's still not that complex and there's not that many different acts and things they do. But there's more to it than just the first one, where everything except for the first scene takes place in one day, essentially. Which I guess this one does too. But they're just going from more place to place and stuff. So I think some of that has to get thrown out the window for this one. And I think that's why I like the first one a little bit more, because it's just simpler. But I think this is the best way you move on from that and don't do the same thing again. You don't just do day 2 in the farm.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
On the barn. Yeah,
I was so pissed when they show at the end of like all the boat stuff that stupid monster was on top of a ship that was just like floating in the sea by itself, and I was like, oh, that's like funny. Look at it. Like, I thought it was like a joke. I didn't think that was gonna, or I thought it was too much of a gimme for them to use that. I was like, that's too easy. Like, I don't think that would happen.
Well, because what
happened?
happened?
So I thought it was supposed to be a joke, but then that is the ship that like goes and wrecks on the island. So that's how the monster got to the island.
But how does the monster get there? Like, does the monster drive the boat?
No, I think they're trying to insinuate like the waves just
took it there
the boat in that direction. And so I thought it was supposed to be a joke. And then that happened, and then everybody's getting slaughtered. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is how this is going to happen.
I agree with you. Just because, I thought that was a really stupid way to kind of transport the monster, because that's literally what ends up happening.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
But everything else that plays out literally right after that was worth it.
It's worth it.
Oh,
yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Is it's worth the leap in logic, right? To just
right, because they're even finding this island that's existed this whole time, where people have just been living like fine and happily, and nobody thinking that these monsters can't survive in water. And I get it, like, we think that's such a simple thing to figure out, but we also, like, if you live in a thing like that, you might not even be trying to, like, you're just trying to survive. You're not like trying to figure everything out because you are terrified for most of the time. It's not like this has been going on for like 6 years. This has only been going on for a small amount of time. And so them having this island where like these people live, I think is really cool. Like, I don't think that's a weak part at all. I think the monster getting there was a little weak.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it's also like a very dramatic movie, so I kind of am accepting of it. But yeah, everything that played out with like the guy he meets on the island, I can't remember his name, but he's in a bunch of movies too.
I don't think they actually name the character. Like, I think,
well, it's hard because nobody talks,
right?
So.
But I think it was kind of funny to me because he was in the trailers, and like Bailey saying he's kind of a more well-known actor. But yeah, the movie, he shows up. He might talk 3
I was
4
surprised
times,
when they fucking killed him, dude. I mean, he's a very like well-respected actor. I mean, usually he plays like a very serious leader type of role. I thought he's about to lead the entire fucking
me too
island to happiness or success or something.
Well, yeah.
But then he gets fucking dragged by the
through the garage.
And the whole way they even just immediately ran to a car because they knew they were going to be distracting it. I'm like, that's some hero shit. That is like, some stuff you need to see from people. I loved that. And then they get all the way to where they need to go. And then, he's like, we were too fast. It's with my family. And like, of course that's sweet because you're like, oh, he like obviously cares about his family, but then just immediately dies in a really probably gruesome way. So,
well, just one thing I really I want to touch on before we get past it, because we kind of already did. When he first realizes it's exactly what you said too about it, just the whole epileptic feel, whatever, just like everything's about to end type of stuff. When he first realizes, okay, like shit, there's a monster on the island, and dude, when he's climbing up and he starts running, you feel that intensity. You feel like, holy shit. Like, and he's yelling, man. Like he knows, obviously, you're not supposed to be loud or whatever. But at that point, it's too late. I mean, he's yelling for everybody to get inside, dude. And you just fucking.
Speaking of like the intensity, like we haven't even really talked about it, but because it kind of just seems like the B part of what's going on. But all the stuff with Emily Blunt and the kid and the baby, just like being locked in this room, and like him, like what we were saying earlier, when he found the dead body, and of course that made him freak out, and then he made noise, and then everything kind of just going to shit. And then Emily Blunt like coming back and having to try and figure out a way to safely get down there. It's just like all of that together was so intense, and like them just zooming in on the oxygen tank and you always seeing it's on like nothing, and yet he's like giving it to the baby and you're like, oh my god, like I can't. It was too much. I hated and loved that. But
it's hard to that's going on at the same time of all this, obviously, so we're trying to spend time on both. But yeah, that shit was insane. The oxygen that to me is the thing that made me more tense than anything just because like suffocating and stuff like that. You just kind of feel that. You could feel like the lack of air almost sitting in the theater. Yes. And I don't know. At first I was a little bit.
That's what makes it hard,
right?
Because you're just like, the poor baby can't say anything, so you're just like, oh my god,
right,
dude. Yeah, man, that scene where they're fucking they're sharing the oxygen. Dude, sweating, straight up sweating, man. Because it's like at that point, you start losing your mind. I mean, dude, he has no idea when like they're gonna open up the vault. He's got no idea if someone is even gonna open up the fucking vault.
Who's coming to save you?
He still thinks the monster's out there. Like at that point, man.
And when Emily finally gets to them, I'm like legit. I thought the kid was dead, and I was just like, this is. Well, yeah, because he was like passed out.
Oh yeah,
which
and
it happens
she's shaking
quick.
Him,
which I
was
love
like,
that.
They're not gonna kill this kid off. Like, there's no way that's how they kill this kid off. I was very nervous.
It's another one of those little things that I love about how John Krasinski's making this movie, because I feel like another director or let's just say in another movie, a moment like that could have been kind of milked more for the effect of like, leave him laying there motionless for 10 or 15 seconds, let the mom start giving him CPR and like actually feel like he is possibly dead, and then he's not. But with this, you get just enough of like, he's laying there totally still, and you get to see Emily Blunt just act really, really well and just shake him until he's awake 5 seconds later. And I love that, because you don't, as like in the audience, you don't feel like you're being like cheated or just like, like here's a cheap like emotional moment. It's more just like it's all happening so quickly, and you never really had time to think like, oh, they're really trying to make me think he's dead. It just seems like he might be.
They did the same thing with the anxiety you get so they finally get into the like radio room, and there's the monsters like in there somewhere, and they're having to be quiet, and so he's like holding Reagan's hand while she's trying to climb down, and they keep showing like a mug right by her foot, and then she misses the mug, and so you're just like, okay, and then they show her like about to step on something else, and you're like, oh my god, and then she misses it, and then there's one more thing, and you're just like, I just drop her, like I don't know, I just am like, I don't know what you should do at this point. It was the anxiety he did really, really well in this movie, because I was very anxious. But yeah, the whole scene I guess we can just talk about the end, but like them showing back and forth two kids who are both using what they've learned to like defeat these monsters, and how it keeps just like flashing back and forth like the shots, and it's so cool how they did that.
Absolutely love that.
And it's you can just see John in the first movie just like crying because he's so proud of his kids. I don't know. It was very emotional. I liked it a lot. For that to be the end.
In my head, I kept like, obviously on screen you seeing from the daughter to the son to the daughter, but in my mind I was also seeing like John's last scene in the movie. Yeah. And I was like, man, just that's the perfect way to end it. Like literally perfect way.
It is, and it's
beautiful.
It's great because the first movie boils down to like a father's love for his children, right, and kind of showing that in this disastrous time, and then this movie is literally showing everything that he was able to teach them with the limited kind of ability that he had dealing with this, and it working. Right, like they learned enough from their dad, and mainly from Reagan being able to like carry that on. But yeah, I just love that. I love that theme is kind of continued in this movie and shown that way.
Yeah, and I love how the daughter too, because we didn't really talk about this, but she steps up big when she what's his name? What's the character's name? Is it Emmett?
Emmett, yes.
Cillian Murphy.
She steps up big time when she's like, look, you feel like you wasted an opportunity. You feel like you could have done something, but you didn't, about your wife, about your son. You know, tough shit. But hey, this is the chance. Like you can redeem yourself. You can do this.
And he does.
And it's like she's doing that on her end. And then you've got the mom literally grabbing him by the fucking throat. She's like, he was your friend. You know, if he was here, he would have done the same thing. And I think that at that point, I'm telling you, man, at that point, and then once he saves the girl, he's got the fucking, earpiece in his mouth. Character just clicked for me, and I thought 100%. Yeah, that scene where he's like dropping her in, and she's trying to step all over the place. I knew she was safe. I thought she was gonna trip over something. Monster was gonna come
and finish
and
him.
it was
Right?
a goner.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I kept thinking that was going to happen too. So that's why
Yeah.
it was really cool to see both the kids save essentially both their parents
Mhm.
because they couldn't the last movie. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
Save
that's
it.
like kind
Yeah.
of the
It's like-
message they ended with in this one.
Right.
I have a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
What are the
Shoot.
chances if part 3 is a thing? Emmett and Evelyn,
Do the little dirty. I know. I was thinking it too.
That's
They're
what
so
I
funny.
mean. That's what I wouldn't like, man. Like that, and that's what I mean.
I
why
wouldn't either, but I would
I just-
understand it.
I just don't know what you do for a part 3, but I like I said at the top, I'm
No,
down
dude,
for it if
no,
he
no,
does
no.
it. But
with what we've seen from part 1, part 2, there's absolutely no way in my mind that if they do a part 3 that they would even explore a relationship between
you think
those
so?
two.
Yeah.
I think there's more important things.
There
and,
definitely is.
I mean, there's no way. There's no way.
I know. I'm interested to see also what maybe they would expand on the island again. Like it's almost like it's not their fault that it happened, but it also is kind of their fault
No.
that it happened.
It's hard to ignore
So-
that for sure. Like, so Reagan's whole idea here is definitely she wants everybody to be able to hear the sound, right? She wants to get there to broadcast on the radio, but inadvertently she does fuck the people living in this peaceful island.
Yeah.
That's one of
100%.
those things where they could make another movie and explore that. My mind instantly goes to BVS, exploring the destruction at the end of Man of Steel. You know what I'm saying? But I don't necessarily know if they would do that.
I know.
Or if it matters.
I'm also not sure if they could find a way to do part 3 and it feel as intense because now we know they can't swim. So now
That's
you
a
know,
Drown those
right there.
fuckers.
and that's the
fucking plot hole.
thing. Now you know, like all you have to do is get to an island. So that would be their next thing. Like I feel like it would all of a sudden become way more about like humans and their issues than it would with the monsters, which is what Walking Dead ended up that way. We don't need that. Like
I think all you could basically
fear.
do is make a third one that really is like, this is the part 3, this is the finale, this is they got out of
this is how the
this.
story wraps up.
Yeah, they got out of this thing, and yeah, they're well aware now that they need to get to a safe island or a safe like kind of like waterlocked place, and it's all about getting there and showing them with some type of happy ending when they get there, and then it's up to your imagination
Like
if the
safe haven
politics
of
and
some
shit
sort.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the only way I'd want a part 3 is obviously, Emily returns, John returns as director. Because
I was going to say Back from the Dead. That would be interesting.
that'd be pretty cool. I think it'd be a weird prequel to I don't know, Jack Ryan, I guess. But no,
That'd be
I
amazing.
think I think it'd be because I mean, look, we've seen part 1, we've seen part 2. They've only, like I said, they've only improved on what people didn't like, I think, in part 1. So obviously there's room for growth, and I mean, and at this point, I fully trust them. That's the only way I would want a part 3 if we're getting a part 3. Besides that, I don't want another fucking director. I don't want
No way.
another
No.
any side of the story, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm on
don't-
board with what you're saying.
Don't make this a universe. Don't milk it.
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely
need a
not.
TV show. Just gonna say that right
No.
now. We don't need
Hell no.
anything.
Or a fucking video game.
Yeah, I'll take a third movie if John
Yeah.
Krasinski's on board, but that's pretty much all I want.
And I think that hinges on if there's a season 3 of Jack Ryan, because where else he's gonna
That's
write
where
the
his
story
he gets
or
the
have
juices,
the time.
bro.
Apparently.
So Amazon,
Apparently
get your
so.
shit ready. John Krasinski's
Yeah.
got to think, dude. He's got to have time to think.
Yes.
All right. Any last statement, fellas? I think we can wrap this sucker up.
No, one last thing that I really meant to bring up in my kind of initial things, and this isn't as much about the movie, it's just where we're at now in the world, but this was a wild way to I mean, everybody must feel this in the air, right? But this is like the return to the movies. It was kind of marketed this way, but this is the biggest movie, and we're recording this on a Monday, so we already seen this is the biggest opening of all of COVID. I think it's the biggest opening since Sonic came out, which was right before COVID happened, which is wild.
Yeah,
But
this had to include it.
this was just a great return to the movies, man. This is like one of those movies that you kind of have to see it in a theater. Hopefully you get a theater where everyone's quiet, because that would also ruin it. But it was just great to be back. It's great to feel a sense of safety, not from the movie, but just the world, and it was great.
Yeah,
I loved
definitely
it.
not from the movie.
Hell
agree.
yeah. All right. Well, obviously we all loved it. If you haven't seen it and you listen to this for some reason, go see it and go to the movies because it was fun as hell. And everybody needs to be safe and get out there. So do it safely, obviously. But it's great. We can't wait to keep talking about freaking movies. We love you, John. I know you listen to us constantly. Had to give you a little shout out there.
Love you, brother.
So stay tuned for Bad Batch is coming out before this. Never mind. Everyone ignore me.
No one watches this live. We're in the
we'll
privacy
let
of our
y'all
own
know
homes.
when we're gonna be doing Cruella soon, I believe, right?
I think that's
Didn't
the
we
plan.
discuss doing that?
I think out of what's coming up, that'll probably be the movie that we come out with next week, but stay tuned because
But
press
stay
play
tuned.
again. Things change on the fly.
We do things out up in the air. It's flying around. We're gonna catch it somewhere. Anyway, y'all have a great old night. We'll see you later. This is Press Play again. And shh.